I was watching a high school be built from scratch. I was in the high school when it was finished, and I was saying hi to everyone. Apparently, there's a field trip or something, so people were going through metal detectors and they had scales to weigh themselves. I went up to get food, and there were people everywhere. And it was a surprisingly later day food instead of breakfast, so I'm guessing lunch or something. I met this really young teenager and we hung out and talked about music and movies. We went to their house and it was kind of like a labyrinth of stairs, except the room where all the movies were, which was like outdoors for some reason. I finally went to the kitchen in the front room, talked to the mom and dad, and said I was going to walk home, but I still went with the dad. When I left, their dad's truck was stolen from a man in a garbage truck, so I waited for the guy to get near his truck, then hit him and pinned him against it. And he hit and killed him. Then I started walking towards a field, and it was raining really hard. And I saw a house at the end of the street that was destroyed by fire to the very foundation. When I got out to the field, a bigger guy in a robe wearing atheist stuff was being worshipped by a group of people. I tried to talk to him, but the people kept getting in my way to bow before him and rub metal icons on the ground. When I finally asked him about his atheistic practice, he said yes to something in an exaggerated and condescending manner, then stabbed me with his cane. I walked away and went to a place surrounded by a fair, or surrounded by like fair circus type places. I don't know, like throw the ball, fold things. I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. Then I was in a museum that turned into a desert with mountains, and I was intersecting people riding horses. So it was like me versus them. They were like cowboys. Here's some more fractured dreams. I was in a town, and it was like run down. People were sparse. On a roof, there's a farm I was keeping up. My family member died, and I was at his house trying to see his ghost as a last attempt to experience their aura. I was at a house with a collar on, and I kept seeing laser pointers everywhere, and I couldn't close any window to stop it. I was driving down the highway with huge open fields everywhere. I was going down a waterfall. I went to a gas station, and I saw Ricky from Trailer Park Boys protesting across the street. I think it was like a KFC, or I was in a KFC. Big warehouse that looks somewhat like town, has an abandoned house, an a post-apocalyptic landscape. Back room is secret with a skeleton and a radio. I get sent to a museum with a tablet and a desk on the upstairs floor. I don't know what this means. Like, the typos on that one were really bad. I must have been asleep still. Longhouse floating in air, killing dinosaurs, collecting music. I went into the forest. I got trapped on an island that was like a slave place where they killed people. They also had a market where they made food with fat and beef. I was hanging out with my cousin at the market, and we all went back home where we hung out. I was in a store-like building being guarded by a huge monster trying to keep me in, and I was building stuff, trying to gather materials to get help. I believe that this was like, I was at my middle school. We drove out to this warehouse, and it was like a store at the same time. Like, I'd say the back rooms of a store just throughout the entire place, mixed with like a place just in the middle of nowhere, just like for like tools and stuff. And yeah, the monster was like outside and trying to keep me in. I didn't really see him a lot, but it seems like around the time I was dreaming about like stores and stuff, just like huge, vast, open stores with clothes everywhere. I remember that pretty well. I was going out to this huge forest, and it was set up like a base. I don't remember that, though. Next dream, I was in my grandma's old trailer. There was a ghost, and I had to get ritual clothes to scare it away. I went to a drive-in where they had a body. I didn't think much of it until I came back trying to see if it was still alive. Then I went into a restaurant, and it was really dark, and it had drawers with information. My grandpa was living in a town that looked like a shanty town with hills. His home was on a hill. His house was a hallway with stairs, really dark. Okay, next dream. A small crab was following my dad and I. He kept kicking it until he decided to boil it. I was in a hotel type thing, and I was smoking a ton of weed near gambling type rooms. But there's a long collection of stuff to buy. I was looking for good alcohol, and they also had music stuff, so I was trying to buy an instrument, but the guys went missing, so I had to find them. Next dream, I was out at my granddad's watching people use a propeller to fly. They started a game that I joined in the field. Then I went back near the house and lay down, and a ton of deer came to start licking me. Came to me and started licking me. One drove me to a factory and then was jumping all over the place in her car. I went to a prison that was abandoned, and then a mental asylum I owned. It was under attack. Next dream, I was in my grandma's trailer. It was dark. I was walking around. I went to a science building with these huge lights everywhere, especially on the ceiling. I went into my grandma's garage, and it was huge and dark. Wood walls, concrete floor. I was on an island with a ton of monsters around, water-based like crabs. I met people, and there was a harbor town at the very edge, and they were hiding. A friend from school came that I knew, like in middle school. But it was like my aunt's basement and attic. She helped me look through it for 3 balloons. She wanted one second. We were walking through big restaurants and food places, and another guy came. He was thin and had black hair, kind of ginger vibes. I guess he had like the specks, the skin kind of orangish, you feel. But yeah, this dream is kind of chaotic, I'm not gonna lie. He wanted to fight, so I beat him until he was bloody, and then I hid him under a stage curtain. He immediately got up and started talking to a teacher, so I walked over and watched him go through the huge walkway and listened to them. I watched him go through the huge walkway, and I listened to them talk to make sure he wasn't telling anything to the teacher. I stared into his eyes the entire time he was walking back and forth. I walked towards an old man and started talking with him, and then Jordan Peterson walked by and said hi to him. Then I followed that guy. I think his name was Andrew, and his grandma started harassing me and I said something like, "Unless you want to have 2 black eyes and no teeth, don't talk to me." Yeah, that was a pretty violent dream. Next dream, I was in a small store. I don't know what this is supposed to mean. I guess I went there with my grandma. We were talking to the person at the front desk, and my grandma gave me a cassette to undo so I could look at the notes. A dog was tied up, and there's a basement to the store, and the guy who owned the dog came up, and he was swearing. He got his dog, walked outside, and got onto his motorbike, and then I got on a motorbike and started going on this really beautiful trail, but I was mostly just riding through fields. This dream, actually, there's a lot of nuance I didn't write down. on the motorbike. There was a race going on, and I was just like going off road just to admire this beautiful forest. And in this store, it was kind of like a drugstore. Um, and there was this other person with my grandma, and this dog owner guy who ran the store, or he was just like coming to the store, and the girl was the person at the store. I don't remember, but I think that guy was just like a dick, and he just like did not want to talk to us. I wish I knew that all the dream, but I didn't even remember it when I was writing it. I was at a bar and I went outside and a girl picked me up and she took me into town. I was at my aunt's house messing with a cat. I was at a beach at the ruins of a building. Then things turned into a garage where we were playing some esoteric card game. Someone's bottled medicine fell over, so I picked it up and I felt really bad. Then she started yelling at me. I grabbed her and threatened her to quiet her. And then when she tried to fight anyone, I told her it's not worth it. I was eventually walking down a path, and 3 guys were harassing me and a girl who was talking to me. The first guy pushed away, and the second guy got right in my face and tried to punch me. Yeah, that dream was interesting too. Threatening people and then trying to immediately say, don't fight anybody, please, it's not worth it, like begging them just to stop. That's interesting. Okay, next dream. I was in a band with 2 girls and 2 guys. I remixed my guitar work and layered it in with their sound. Everyone hated it. I was kicked out of the band. I gave a ton of weed to one of the guys so we could cook it into food, building up a safe house in a park with concrete bricks around a small house, shooting robots out of the sky, large roads to explore. In the band, I was in my aunt's basement for some reason. I remember that. I was in a Harding's mixed with a large market type thing. There were DVDs heavily in the center, esoteric clothes in some aisles, and bats and pipes. And it came down and kept looking at me. I went to my attic and I had a chair set up with chocolate pieces on the floor and candles. I was looking out for bats, and there's a huge hole in the wall, so the wind kept blowing my stuff down a lot. My cousin and Liz's parents invited us over for a large breakfast, like kiwis, grilled cheese, and peanut butter crackers. Here's the next dream. I was in a mire looking for new pants, and then I was driving down the street next to my grandma's old house, and there were a ton of open hills like quarries and forests. I don't know. Maybe I meant something by that, and it's just some confusion. Maybe I need more comments. I don't know. I was at home, and I was putting boxes in the air, and they were floating as I prepared to burn them. I was listening to Rainbow Bridge 3. I was at my aunt's house, but it was dark, and everyone was going to watch a school, but I stayed back. I don't know what that means. Was riding in a car, went to the store, parked it in a lot, almost lost it. It was right at the front. I sat in the car, and it turned into a sink that played SPK. I went to a weird world where that had these stick monsters that looked like shish kebabs, and I knocked them over and they died. I went to see my granddad. His room was huge and messy. There were books everywhere and huge locked electronic closets. Watched Fear and Loathing, went to a restaurant. I believe that I had to cross a road at some point in the desert too. This is where the dreams start picking up some momentum a little bit. Just an example really quick because it's next in line. Downstairs in my parents' basement, it begins looking weird and full of wires. The ceiling is really low and wires are everywhere. Someone asked me to raise them. I say no. I start walking with this Asian girl. She's kind of manic. She keeps sitting down at these large school tables in the room and is asking about black clay. I take her to a room that looks like a mall store and drop her off. Then I walk across the basement. As the other side turns into a store. It looks like a collection of ugly old wrinkly masks. I grab one and walk out the back. They have paper masks that stick to your mouth so you don't have to grab a face mask. I kept quoting ghouls from Fallout, and I'm out in front of a school-type building. Then I go out in the street, and I'm setting up this trap where you push this piece of fabric in the ground and push the center in the dirt with a water hose. I walked towards this party. I got to the street. They were at the end of the road playing hockey with sigils carved into wooden blocks and one in the ground. I got a wooden sigil thing because the person asked for it. And then we all went home. The room turned into the Serious Sam 2 looking building with really cartoonish atmosphere and monsters. Then I woke up, went to the bathroom, and I heard my mom talking about conspiracy theories, so I yelled at her and called her an idiot. Now, when I say I woke up in this dream, I literally woke up in this dream. Like, I woke up to another dream. Like, I love dreams like that, but sometimes I'll wake up in my dream because I'll be dreaming in my dream, and that's how it will transition, right? So here's another one that's starting right off the bat with cemetery again. Was looking for cemetery shirts in my room, missed the bus for school, started walking to school, writing a book about myself as a girl. I went down a large wet hill. I went to this building, and outside there's a guy singing with a acoustic guitar. We followed him playing a song until we ended up in a Buddhist temple, and I recorded his entire performance poorly on a cassette deck. I went to a funeral in cornfields after I was at my grandpa's to get a CD on the table. I was in my grandpa's house during the funeral, and everyone was walking up and down the stairs. Celebrities were there, and there was a downstairs bathroom. I was in a post-apocalyptic movie type scenario where I had this huge building with all these people underneath me. I oversaw hospitals and food. There's a huge basement where I relaxed, a huge mid-floor, and some elevators I didn't explore at all. It was like a combination of a school and a prison, I believe, on the elevators, but the post-apocalyptic movie scenario, this was what I was talking about. It was like those church basements with like those huge tables and everything. It was like that. It was like just a huge church basement mixed with like an art room in like a elementary or a middle school. I mean, it's really hard to explain. It's like a combination of a lot of different places, but it was post-apocalyptic. It was kind of playing out like a movie. It was interesting. So here's the next dream. I was in the town. It was ran by robots, and it was being destroyed by raiders. And they all started being killed by the townsfolk. I went to a Taco Bell, and I was talking to Murr from Impractical Jokers, and we chatted about Tim and Eric and comedy, and David Cross. I was playing Unreal Tournament, and I was trying to shoot the energy balls. The room was huge, and it went back to this low gravity room with a room higher up. I jumped into it and watched somebody take the item to the goal where they floated down into a huge fan blade. Okay. I went to Arkansas. While coming back, I was taking pictures and stopped in the cathedral town full of graves, and it turned into a museum with candle making and slot machines. It was in a high school gym, and a ton of people were there. We were collecting papers, I believe. There was a cop there. I was drawing angels in class and faces. There were demons everywhere, and my friend from elementary was there. I talked with a teacher about paper planes, I guess, we used to prank people with. I was making up a ton of work I never finished in school. I was downstairs in my house and there's a loud banging in my room. I went up to find apples thrown at the wall and busted. I was in the Tony Hawk warehouse and was taking pictures. It led me outside to a school where I was taking pictures of the bricks at night. I went into the school and took pictures of the walls and lockers. There's a really long water tunnel with a guided boxcar thing. Went to an amusement park through the tunnel by speeding up the process really quickly, and it killed the person controlling the car. When I got out, there's a haunted doll following me, and through different rooms of this amusement park where there were stores, the haunted doll was looking for other living dolls, and they were at a trading post, and they were also trying to escape the doll. And then I'm gonna have to stop here because the next stream is pretty long, and I'll have to make a new video for that, so I'm sorry.